Good evening and welcome to the campus of UW-Whitewater. I'm your host, Sam Matheny, and alongside me today is Ryan Baker. We ask you to please excuse our momentary interruption of sports from your regular daily schedule, and let's get right into it. In the midst of COVID shortening the season in 2020, MLB made the designated hitter available for both the National and American leagues. They have since changed it to having the DH available in the American League and when an NL team plays in an American League ballpark. This brings up the question, should the MLB make the DH universal across both leagues or should it get rid of it entirely?
Now, I'm going to go with an answer here that wasn't necessarily labeled in the question, but I think that the MLB should just keep it the same as it was in the 2019 season. I know that the 2020 season brought some different aspects and changed the game a little bit, but in 2019, when it was only available in the American League, I think that baseball should just keep it the same. I guess I might just be an old school guy, but that's the way that I see it.
I think that the DH shouldn't even be a thing in both leagues. I'm going to go as far as saying that because I think it makes each team think of, what they have to do strategically. You have a team when they have a pitcher up to bat and you think of, okay, should we put a pinch hitter in? Should we let the pitcher hit? It's all more strategic based. And I think that's what makes the game so great is when you're able to put that strategy in. Regardless of if offensive numbers are down, pitchers should still be in the lineup because they're in the lineup.
And I really don't think that the one extra batter would change the offensive numbers too much, but the biggest reason why I think that it should just be kept the same is pitchers are paid to pitch. They're not paid to hit. They get paid millions and millions of dollars to throw the ball from 60 feet away, and the batters get paid to hit. They don't get paid to go out there and pitch either. I wouldn't want to go to the ballpark to see Aaron Judge go on the mound.
That's fair. I mean, I would honestly like to see that happen, but at the same time, I think pitch hitters, they get a better chance of being implemented in the lineup, so it's not just the same 9 to 12 players batting every single day, If you have pinch hitters coming into the game, it gives them a better shot, and if you have a DH, you're not necessarily able to get that shot for all those players because it's going to be relatively the same lineup.
I understand that, and I do see the fact that I think it's very entertaining. I feel like not a lot of people see this this way, but it's entertaining to see the pitchers hit sometimes. I think one of the biggest things that gets showcased on like MLB, social media, or anything like that is when pitchers rake, when pitchers get those hits. However, again, just the fact that pitchers are getting hurt running the bases. They're getting hurt batting, swinging the bat. And it showed out just a couple of years ago when Jacob deGrom got put on the DL for just a couple months because he had a swing and miss and it messed up his shoulder pretty badly. You don't want to run the risk of your aces getting hurt. You need those guys later in the season.
But at the same time, I get that was his shoulder that got injured, but pitchers are being used so much more dynamically throughout this year and throughout this modern era of baseball because they're throwing faster, they're throwing harder, but they're also rotating them more. So I think that's almost on the pitching coach and the bullpen to make sure they rotate those players in safely.
Yeah, that is very true. I think that the change of the actual baseball, which has happened over the past few years, does affect that a little bit. However, I just think that it's a completely different game if you wipe out the DH. And again, I'm just an old school guy when it comes to that. I'm rooted in baseball, so I think that it's hard for things to change, especially for something that's been established for so long.
Next up, we'll discuss if baseball is worth watching. We'll be right back. Please excuse this commercial break. Welcome back to Please Excuse our momentary interruption of sports from your regular daily schedule. Major League Baseball is implementing new ways to make the game more interesting, with starting a runner on second in extra innings and 7-inning doubleheaders. Even with these changes, fans still think baseball is too long and boring. Do you agree?
Right now, as far as the 2021 season showed, yes, I do think baseball is getting a little bit boring, getting a little bit watered down. Now, the only reason why I say that is because the offensive numbers are down like crazy, especially you saw from 2021. I think that baseball was exciting and everyone was kind of into it 2019 or pre-2019, and you even saw a record of how many home runs were hit with 6,776 home runs in the 2019 season, the most you've ever seen by a lump sum margin. However, this year we saw a significant decrease. There was a significant decrease in the home runs by about 600, and that's simply because, as I said in the last segment, that the baseballs have changed. In 2019, the baseballs, the seams were a little bit higher, and that's what produces the boom. And all of the baseballs get manufactured in Costa Rica at the Rawlings factory, and because of that, there's some inconsistencies that get thrown out there. And that's why the offensive numbers were so up in 2019, but MLB changed the ball in 2021. They loosened one of the first 3 top seams, which gives the pitchers a better bit of a grip, and therefore the offensive numbers were down. And home runs sell or get money at the end of the day. Home runs make money.
I disagree. I think that, just because they changed the baseball, yeah, I mean, they deadened the baseball a year or 2 ago. I don't think that really has much to do with it, though. I just think the pitchers are just that much better. They're throwing at a faster speed, faster spin rate, and at the same time, David Ortiz once said an example. He once said in a press conference that just because, like when they were speeding up the game, when they wanted to speed up the game, David Ortiz was saying, hey, that's kind of, for lack of a better term, that's crap. Because, they have, when a batter steps out of the box, they have to think about a multitude of things. They have to think of whether or not the pitch is going to be, where it's going to be located, what pitch is going to be, because most of the time pitchers throw 4 or 5 pitches. And when you're telling a batter that he can only step out of the box for a little bit and come back in, and that the pitcher has a timer, I just don't think that's true at all. I don't think that's meant to be, because the game is meant to be played long. And I think it's ridiculous that they're even trying to think it's boring.
I do understand that, and I do get that there's a lot of strategy in baseball and everything like that. And from a guy that has baseball in his life since day one, I don't really see an issue with that. However, at the end of the day, it's about making money. It's about bringing in those new fans. You're always going to have those returning fans of baseball that love baseball, no matter what the game is like. You're always going to have those guys returning to the field. You're always going to have those guys tuning in on TV. However, it's about bringing in that new market. It's about making more money. And at the end of the day, it is about money for the MLB. It's about money for all of these companies. And like I said, offense makes money at the end of the day. And I just think that, yes, you see maybe a little bit better baseball being played with those pitchers increasing their success. However, again, it's just about money at the end of the day.
I disagree. I mean, for most people, they think it's because of the love of the sport. Yes, they play it for money at the end of the day, but at the same time, those fans, that's not what they're playing. That's not what they're watching it for. They're watching it because they want to see good baseball be played. And just because there's not as many home runs, I don't think that's why it's that way. I still think that the pitching has a big aspect to do in the game, because the pitching is what has been making these the level of these pitchers has been what's making the game so much less scoring output.
I do get that, and like I said, it's hard for people to tune into a sport that they're not 100% familiar with, or maybe it's not their favorite sport. It's hard for them to tune in on TV for about 4 hours each game, 3 to 4 hours for each game. It's hard for them to keep going with it and stay watching it. Again, baseball, I believe, is always a ballpark sport. It's always an in-person sport, but I guess we'll see here in the future where that lies.
Next up, we will discuss pitchers using illegal substances. We'll be right back with more PEOMIOSFYRDS. Welcome back to Please Excuse Our Momentary Interruption of Sports from your regular daily schedule. And the MLB is enforcing umpires to check pitchers for illegal substances. Umpires now have the power to check pitchers, even if not prompted by the teams. Is this the right move by baseball?
Now, I think it was the right idea, but the wrong execution on what they have going on with how they're checking and everything like that. But all in all, I think that these periodic checks and checking for these substances with pitchers, Robert Manfred said that today's substances are way more tackier and it's easier for them to hide it. However, I think this is just a ploy by Robert Manfred to make up for what he didn't do in the Astros cheating scandal. I don't think that this is necessarily the best move for baseball, and I think he's just trying to make ends meet at this point.
Action should not be taken. That's the bottom line here. For decades, pitchers have been getting the short end of the stick. First, they shrink the strike zone in 1969. 2 years later, they decide to lower the pitcher's mound. I mean, all these things have been done to jeopardize pitchers in general. They don't care about the pitchers. All they care about is the offense. And that's not all. Oh yeah, the 3-batter minimum rule. Let's throw that on the pitchers just to make sure that, they get a harder time. Pitchers arguably have the hardest job in the MLB. I'm sorry, they really do. And they're doing all these things too. It's not even that. They're moving the mound back a foot in minor leagues too. And next thing you know, that'll be implemented in the MLB.
See, here's the thing about that, though. The whole MLB message for the past 5 to 10 years has been about speeding up the game. They don't want the game to drag on and on and on. They want to make this not necessarily as short as possible, but they want to make it more entertaining for the fans. They want to bring in those new markets. And the thing is these checks are slowing down the game. And I don't think that, yes, the pitchers have gotten the short end of the stick for the past couple years, but as I said in the earlier segment, offense makes money, and the MLB wants to increase those revenues, and they want to be able to bring in more people to the league. And I think that it's the wrong idea, but I do think that they're on the right track for it.
Disagreed. You think that offense makes the game. They don't really make the game. How many pitchers are on a roster, Ryan? How many pitchers are on a roster? And you look at how many catchers are on a roster. Trace. That's exactly my point. There's more pitchers on a team, and they bring in more money.
Yes, there are more pitchers on the team, but at the end of the day, you got to look at it. What are new fans, not people that have been rooted in the game for a long time, what are the fans, the new fans, what are they wanting to see? Are they going to want to see a pitcher dice up that 90-mile-an-hour slider that looks unreal with crazy movement? Or do they want to see someone hit a ball 500 feet? I think we obviously know the answer there. The new fans are going to want to see that ball go 500 feet. They're going to want to see that offense go off. They're going to want to see those high-scoring games. I really think that the pitchers and the pitcher duels that you see in the great games, the low-scoring games, those are for the returning fans. Those are for the people that have been fans of baseball for most of their life. I truly don't think that it's going to bring in new people if they keep on, or if the pitchers are dominating like they haven't been before.
If fans are getting bored, that's their dang fault. You know, like if they think that it's just getting boring, that's definitely their fault. I mean, yeah, like you said just 2 segments ago, it's a game where you go to the ballpark. It's about the ballpark experience. If you're watching on TV, tell your mom to go make some more money and then go to the ballpark yourself.
Okay, I do get that, but the whole thing about that is it's hard for those pitchers and for those fans to be able to get locked onto the game, and I understand that it's their own fault, but at the end of the day, the MLB wants to bring in the most amount of people as possible, and how do you do that? Offense.
Yeah, but like I said earlier, they're getting the short end of the stick. They keep changing all these rules for the pitching. You have to agree with that. These pitchers, they're getting so many rules changed about them. But then if the MLB really cared about cheating, where's the steroid era? Why didn't you reprimand all those players from the steroid? Half people in the Hall of Fame today should have been out if you really cared about cheating.
I do get that. I understand that completely. I think it's just hard to really lock down the steroid era. I mean, there's been rumors that up to 50 to 60% of the top guys in the league took steroids. It's hard to be able to crack down on that. And now they're just trying to make up for it. And I think we're on the same page. I think we just got there for different ways is how we got there for sure.
Absolutely. Next up, we give our opinions on the Astros sign stealing scandal. We'll be right back on PEOMIOSFYRDS. The Houston Astros were accused of stealing signs in the 2017 World Series run, and in the following season by Major League Baseball, they found a center field camera to decode opposing catchers' signs, and players banged on trash cans to signal to batters what pitch was coming. The White Sox are claiming that it was done again in 2021. Should the MLB take action against the Astros players?
Now, I think that the MLB should take action against those Astros players and the Astros coaching staff when it happened. I simply don't think they did enough. This is just an absolute terrible thing to happen to baseball. They disgraced the game. They disgraced how it's played. They disgraced the years and years of history of it. I think it was awful what they did. And I really think that those players that were involved in it, I think the immunity that they offered to those players like Altuve and Carlos Correa and Bregman it shouldn't have happened. I think that the trophy should have been taken away. I think that these players should have been suspended at least a year. I don't think that there was enough action taken at all.
I'd agree on that, but at the same time, you know, Rob Manfred really has been like the worst MLB commissioner we've ever seen. You know, this league needs to have a change-up. No pun intended. They really do. And they need to be checking players in locker rooms for this kind of stuff. They need to be checking them in, you know, training rooms. They need to be checking them on the field, not just with sticky substances, but at the same time with like buzzers on their chest, like at Jose Altuve right there. But at the same time, you know, like these MLB, there's been so much cheating going on. So like at the same time, my brain also thinks, Why even reprimand them? Everyone's cheating anyway.
I see that's the only thing though. These guys got blatantly caught for cheating for nearly 2 to 3 years. They won a title. Jose Altuve robbed Aaron Judge of an MVP. They robbed the Dodgers of a title. They've done too many things to disgrace the game of baseball, and this has been the biggest scandal since the Shoeless Joe Jackson scandal in 1919. And even if you look a couple years or a couple decades in the future, Pete Rose got banned for life. One of the greatest players to ever touch the baseball field got banned for life because he was betting on himself. He wasn't even really disgracing the game of baseball. He wasn't putting his team in jeopardy. He wasn't doing anything like that. He was just saying, hey, our team's better than everyone, so why not make a little bit more money on it? I just think that the Astros, they should have gotten reprimanded way more than they got a little slap on the wrist.
100% agree, Ryan. That will do it for us here tonight. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time to hear more hot takes all around the world of sports. This has been Please Excuse Our Momentary Interruption of Sports from your regular daily schedule on UWW-TV.